like over the next couple of years, AI is going to take on an increasingly important role in businesses. We're talking about basic AI, narrow AI, which is about 60% of what we're currently doing, then generative AI, and then particularly agentic AI, which is yeah, well, they're still learning. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of businesses. I think there's a great deal of FOMO out there where everybody believes everybody else has, raced ahead. And some have and some haven't. But it really is a race to a degree to catch up and to learn at this moment. I think businesses are going to have to start to look at, AI as being a core part of the strategy. Now, we're talking about narrow AI in general, retention models, analytic models, next best action. They're going to have to look at generative AI and see what part that plays in, the construction of content, media, the analysis of the business. But they're also now going to have to look at agentic AI, which is digital labor built on top of large language models that can actually take over a lot of the roles that particular staff members are doing. So once you start looking at all of this, you're going, actually, we may be in a stage where we're very soon going to have, not just human labor, but a lot of digital labor built into a business. Now, nothing unusual there. Amazon factories are full of it. Lots of people have put agentic labor into, workplaces already. But it leads to a different set of skills you need as a manager. Now, how I manage a person is very different than how I manage a robot, how I manage, a person plus a digital worker, and the performance metrics and the KPIs and the goals that I set and the strategies that I put in place. They're all new skills that people need to learn, including AI. Now, if AI is going to take on, a huge proportion of work, then you could end up, as I call it, a headless organization like Uber, which is basically means, people are controlled by, technology that's driving them, pointing in particular directions, allocating the next body of work. What does that mean as you transition, your workplace to that? What does it mean for your customers? If you look at Uber and some of the things that have come up against over the last numbers of years, have I decided policies that make up for some of technology's fragilities or when it goes wrong? If I'm DPD, someone has went in, filled in a chatbot that I've used, to try and reduce traffic or to improve service. And if someone tells it to swear and it does, how am I going to cope with all of these things and learn all of this tech and manage my staff? There's so many questions that we are learning answers to. And not only that, if AI is going to do a lot of what we're doing, then how do we develop, the skills that AI can't, the curiosity, the agility, the adaptability, the coaching and mentorship? How do I learn the data, the AI skills themselves? How do I learn critical and analytical thinking? Where do I know to use technology, decision insight? How do I actually cooperate or co-compete with my, previous competitors? Cooperation or co-opetition. How do I open drawbridges and cooperate in an increasingly, intelligent and digital world? How do I plan for, my new career, the new careers inside of businesses like agentic AI architects, data strategists, generative AI content engineers, agentic labor leader? How do I, maybe like a Moderna in the world, actually start to restructure my leadership team? So my chief HR officer is now, taking on the role of a chief technology officer as well. How do I get people excited about new roles like an AI network optimization engineer and all of the things that are going to come in the very distant future? So it shouldn't scare people too much that they need change, enough motivation that the world is moving, you need to move with it, and you need to be very agile. But how do I let everybody know what I know? How do I get everybody excited? How do I build a change management, a people strategy program, whilst running myself to keep up to learn all of these things? So there's a lot businesses and business leaders have to do to adjust their own learning, their own leadership model, the structure of their organization, who does the work, be it digital or human labor, and my biggest thing is get excited about it, but get started now. So it's not one thing, it's a whole host of things, but that's what makes fun and business fun as well. As mad as it seems, the basic secret that nobody really talks about is never getting there in the first place. And I need to explain that because that seems slightly odd. Businesses that tend to need to digitally transform have got themselves in a position where they're very analog today, but AI itself is a 80-year-old overnight success story. The term itself was invented in 1956 when a group of scientists went to Dartmouth in the US to recreate the human mind and body and faculties, and then discovered that they actually couldn't. So, if you are in a digital transformation, in a major digital transformation space. You technically haven't been watching what's been happening in the market for the last 80 years, or in particular in the last 10 or 15 years, or even in the last 5 years. But look, let's take it for granted. Some companies have got to build, change as part of their system, innovation as part of their DNA, then willingness to be agile and try things and make mistakes and break things and grow and do it. But if they're in that situation, then not suddenly having a digital transformation plan, you've now got one, then you really need to build that culture, not just recognizing or thinking that this is a project that's got a beginning and an end, but I constantly need to create a culture of continuous change, that's intelligent. In other words, using AI or Gen AI or intelligent automation that's creative, again, using Gen AI or other tools or techniques that's going to allow me to innovate and keep ahead of my competition. It's digitally enabled, where I'm using cloud and SaaS and agentic for my delivery model. And I've got, a people strategy that's bringing everyone on the journey, and again, you may need to have the guts as a leader to tell some of the people that they're not actually coming on the journey ahead, but facing that up rather than handing it across to your CHRO and not chucking transformation at your tech team. This is too important to do all those things. So if you are in the position where you now need to digitally transform, use this as a call to action. Your burning platform that says, look, yeah, we've got stuck. We are analog. We now need to move, more quickly than we've ever moved before. But how do we create that culture going forward where change, innovation, creativity, intelligence, customer delivery using digital channels, and our staff's ability to work, and our career pathing of those individuals to allow the business people and tech strategy to merge over the next couple of years is continually evolving, so we don't get bored eating the same cake. So there's not one secret. Secret is don't get there in the first place. But if you do get into that situation, make all those things happen. And the next secret is don't fall back on we'll just keep doing what we've always done, because the world is moving too quickly and it won't move around you. But if you need to digitally transform, get your tech, get your people, get your processes, get all those working together, and then create a flywheel that guarantees, hopefully to goodness, your success going forward. But become a learning business as well, because there's lots you will learn. Some things you will throw away currently, some things you will throw away forever, and lots you will do and it will be done right. But don't ever fall behind again is the secret sauce. Yeah, well, you go back to what you can get from data analytics. And I say data analytics combined with, AI and other automation tooling. So at the most basic level, I can get the what and the why. In other words, I can get descriptive and diagnostic analytics. Why are customers coming to us? How many customers do we have? Why are customers leaving? And that's the, what I describe as the insight piece. And even knowing those numbers, I can make better decisions as to how many products I need to order, how many people I need staff in my contact center, or a whole host of things that, believe it or not, in this day and age, even the basics some companies don't have. But the real skill is, how do I get foresight? In other words, how do I get predictive analytics in place, which is using AI and machine learning and all sorts of other things like neural networks to forecast forward what might happen in the future. So in other words, if everything stays the way it stays, then percentage over time, what does the foresight look like? So now I'm making the decision fully aware of all of the impacts that it's going to have going forward over the next period of time to a high degree of certainty. And then I can go, well, actually, I've now got insight and I've got predictive foresight, but how do I get prescriptive foresight? In other words, using AI models to determine, look, I want to end up over here. What do I need to do today to make those decisions? So data analytics allows you insight and foresight. And if you make better decisions, and this is involved, you need to be really curious to look out these decisions. That's a very human trait, not an AI trait. Then what we're taught is that, there's a 95% correlation between better decision making and better outcomes. So who wouldn't want to make better business decisions every day that lead to a 95% success chance? The other 5% left over is for just uncertainty that is always available. But rather than a 50-50 guesswork, I want the insight and foresight with brilliant people making great decisions every day that are going to result in a far higher likelihood of success. So why wouldn't you want it? So how can businesses use analytics to get competitive advantage? Get the foresight and the insight you need, train people how to make better decisions, and better decisions lead to better business outcomes every time compared to anyone else. Someone once said to me, I predict that whatever I predict probably won't happen. But no, let's let's look at some of the trends that are there. Like over the next couple of years, AI is going to take on an increasingly important role in businesses. And we're talking about basic AI, narrow AI, which is about 60% of what we're currently doing, then generative AI, and then particularly agentic AI, which is digital labor coming in at a pace that will disrupt like we've never seen before. I think if you look bigger picture, and IBM did an announcement recently talking about quantum computing coming to realistic, what I describe as business commercial, not just large enterprise commercial by 2029, then we're going to see a lot of quantum computing coming in the next couple of years. Now, if you combine quantum computing with AI, can you imagine the intelligence or benefit that we will actually get? Things that our brightest minds can't even imagine or imagination can't forecast at this moment in time. So I would say the big trends, AI, agentic labor, quantum computing, if we can get all of those things right, it's amazing. Now, that's not going to say that won't be without impact, because some companies will look at this as an opportunity to reduce workforce, make better decisions. If you look at some of the missings or musings around, onboarding of new staff, everybody will use a Gen AI robot rather than hire new staff, or they'll reverse that. They'll kill their main staff in businesses that are costing them a lot of money. They'll give a very junior person, AI. They'll be better than the senior staff. So there's so many comments, but ultimately this is going to be disruptive. It's going to disrupt, those individuals whose jobs can be automated, can be digitized. It'll disrupt labor markets and education markets, because now if we get these large language models right, and if we use AI and quantum computing to come up with solutions for us, then a lot of what we're paid for currently, which is, the thinking roles, will be disrupted. Now, does that worry you? Does that excite you? Probably it's somewhere in between the two. I go back in the day and I sort of look at American presidents like Kennedy or Obama in their exit speeches who said automation is going to kill all jobs. I look at, that was Obama. Kennedy was saying, look, computing technology, which he meant mainframe, is going to ruin jobs. But what we've discovered is that human creativity is amazing. We have created more jobs and more opportunities and more new careers than we have broken, and things will get left behind. So today there's far less saddlers than there are software engineers. In the future there might be far less software engineers and a lot more verbal vibe computing business people. So again, it shouldn't worry us. The key bit is, and I say, ask yourself this: do you really want to be doing what you're doing in 5 years' time? Or would you rather AI, quantum computing, and a whole load of technology took the robot out of you, freed you up to do more amazing work, to do the creative human things that you would enjoy, or something else? Those who embrace the future, who are open to change, have agility, in their own learning, never mind in their own businesses, won't suffer from what I call AI or digital Darwinism, which is those businesses that hope the world is changing. They'll not do anything at all. And I don't wish that in anyone, but I do see it a lot. Look, this is a fad. This isn't a fad. Look, technology it'll go away. It won't go away. Am I going to buy, a headset that allows me to see a cartoon body? No, that was nonsensical. Was I going to buy blockchain at the prices it's at the moment? I can't work that one out myself. But this is a different era. Digital tech works, SaaS works, cloud works, AI works, agentics works. So don't practice digital Darwinism. But my one is, look, if you're a business that's constantly agile, constantly changing, constantly investing in your tech and your people, constantly looking ahead and testing and trying things, you will succeed. It doesn't need to be that complicated. And for me, it's one of the most exciting times ever if you put your head up and don't put your head down in the sand. So look, the future's uncertain. Certain key trends will happen. AI will be a massive one of those in all its variations. But I would suggest a trend that I've seen over the decades is we will survive as humans. Those of us who embrace change, make more productive, more valuable things. Those that don't, they'll probably struggle, and I wish that in no one. So if this is a call to arms to tell people to move, please move, folks. Run, and run fast, and keep running over the length and breadth of your career. Someone once said to me, you can choose comfort or you can choose growth. Both are painful, but trust me, growth in the longer term is a lot less painful than sitting doing nothing.